Today's Q-chord quick tip goes into a bit more detail than the left-hand quick tip did to better understand the layout of the chord buttons. With an understanding of how the buttons are laced together, it's easy to find the correct buttons without looking down at the neck. First, let's review music scales. A scale is a set of notes. In today's music, most scales are 7 notes, and the Q-chord is organized around this principle. A song can be presented in any scale because the relative distance from note to note remains the same. For example, the distance from C to D is the same distance as between G to A. When playing the Q-chord, we don't need to be concerned about which notes are a half step apart and which are a whole step apart. The Q-chord has already taken care of that. We just want to be aware that the scale is 7 notes in ascending order. The Q-chord's buttons are not laid out like a scale. Instead, think of the scale like a telephone number that's 7 digits long. It's common to divide the digits into sets of 3 and 4 to make it easier to remember the whole number. Next, lace them together with the first one between the 4th and the 5th. They're still in ascending order, but they're laced together like fingers clasped together, with number 1 always laced between 4 and 5. Check this for yourself. When looking at the key of C on the Q-chord, you can see that the first chord of the key is F and the last is B. C, D, E, chords 1, 2, and 3, are laced between F, G, A, and B, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And it's the same organization for each key. For example, the G key, G to A and B, they're laced between C, D, E, and F sharp. Okay, so why do we care? Well, I didn't even notice this for the entire first year that I was figuring out how to play the Q-chord, and I would get confused when moving from key to key on how far to move my fingers to find anything other than the 1, the 4, or the 5 keys. But you can remember that they are laced together and in ascending order. It's easy to figure out without looking down at your hand how far to move to find the chord button you need. For example, if the chord you're already playing happens to be the C chord and you want to play the D chord next, you know that it'll be to the right and you'll need to skip a button to find it. If you need to play an E chord, you'll want to skip twice. You need to always remember that 4 starts the pattern over just to the left of the chord that you started with, and then the pattern continues skipping every other button. So why'd they do this? At first glance, it might seem overly complicated, but it follows along this pattern just like a chord wheel, and by doing so, places chords that are most often used together close to each other. It makes the Q-chord easier to play than, say, a piano that lays the keys out sequentially. Let's see how this plays out using some popular chord progressions. You'll find these progressions in song after song because they make music melodic and interesting. For the sake of time, let's just look at the most common ones in a major scale. Notice that rarely do progressions go in sequential order. I'll demonstrate them on the Q-chord in easy play mode. Watch my hand with the middle finger always on the 1 chord, ring finger always on the 4 chord, the index finger on the 5 and 2 chords, and my thumb finding all the others. These are the basic progressions on which many a country tune is based. The 1-5-7. The 1-4-5-7. The 1-5-7-4. Now we start to see how minor chords come into play with the 2 and the 3 chords. Songs like Yankee Doodle Dandy, Gentle on My Mind, and Sunshine on My Shoulder feature one of these progressions. The 1-2-7-5-7-1. The 1, 2 minor, 5, 7, 1. The 1, 2 minor, 3 minor, 4. This set features the 6th chord. Listen carefully. Can you hear heart and soul? Or sea of love? Many an old-time rock and roll tune has been based on one of these progressions. The 1, 6 minor, 4, 5, 1. The 1, 6 minor, 2 minor, 7th, 5, 7th, 1. The 1, 6 minor, 2 minor, 3 minor, 4. These longer progressions are found in songs about the blues, and parts of them can be found in songs like Santa Claus is Coming to Town. The 1, 1, 7, 4, 4, 7, 1, 5, 7, 4, 1. The 1, 1, 7, 4, 4 minor, 1, 5, 7, 1. Okay, so now you know how this layout makes playing the Q chord so much easier than a piano or a guitar. Try it yourself. To learn more about progressions, consider purchasing books about music theory, or just play. The more songs you learn, the more you'll start to feel and see the patterns. Just remember, the scale is laced together. If you ever forget, lace your fingers together, 3 from one hand and 4 from the other, noticing that the first finger is between the 4 and 5, as shown earlier. It's like having your own portable chord wheel. And that's the Q chord quick tip for today.